Jim's guest is Evan Carlson, a graduate of Central Michigan University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Political Science along with a certificate in elections and political advocacy. In July of 2025, he was hired by probate judge Kimberly Gildner and now serves as a juvenile probation officer. That means he's on the front lines with at-risk youth, conducting home visits, working with schools, interviewing families, making court appearances, and building case plans that can literally change the trajectory of a young person's life. He also supervises the Pathway to Potential program, funded through the State Court Administrator's Office, focused on diversion and early intervention for status offenses. So when we talk today about young people, about disillusionment, employment, politics, polarization, and whether the system is working, Evan brings more than opinion. He brings lived experience. He works directly with young people navigating complex systems at some of the most pivotal moments in their lives. This isn't an abstract discussion. It's about a generation trying to figure out whether America still works for them, and what happens if they decide it doesn't. Let's get into it.
Well, Evan, welcome to the program, young man. I'm looking forward to a great conversation about the youth in this country, and thanks for signing up and coming on the podcast.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Let me talk about something that should get everybody's attention. There are 50 million Americans between 18 and 29 years old, and nearly half of them didn't vote in the last presidential election. And that's really not apathy. That might be really called disillusionment. If you have a college degree in your 20s, unemployment is relatively low, around 3 to 4%. We're going to get into that. But if you don't, it jumps closer to 8%, and underemployment is even higher. Meanwhile, housing prices have doubled in many markets over the past decade, and home ownership for people under 30 is really at historic lows. More than 60% of young Americans say the country is on the wrong track. So here's the uncomfortable question. Is America failing young people, or are young people losing faith in America? And I think, Evan, I'd like to show you a little video. It's an interview done through AP, the Associated Press, with a young man named Ryan Guillotine. Here we go.
There have been multiple potential employers that I've been talking to who I got 3 or 4 interviews into the process, and then they said, you know what, actually we're going to put the brakes on this and not hire this year, or we're putting it off until next year, or when we're back in the office. There's been a number of, responses like that.
So let's start there. Let's start with youth, employment, and so forth. What are you seeing with your generation? Where are they at on employment and so forth, and being able to get a job? You're a college guy, Central Michigan University. Talk to that subject right now.
Yeah. First of all, fire up chips. But second of all, I've had very similar experiences to Mr. Galantine in the video that we just had seen. I graduated from Central in December of 2024, and even prior to graduating, I was applying for multiple positions I was qualified for as entry-level positions. My major and bachelor's degree is in political science, so I have a background in government, all 3 branches, and have worked for and participated in multiple campaigns and did multiple internships. One with the governor of Michigan's office and one with the U.S. House of Representatives. So it's not to say that I didn't have the baseline qualifications for a lot of these entry-level positions. Yet it took me 8 months to secure a job offer that wasn't underemployment. So that matched my skill set and paid me what I was worth. So I've had multiple experiences just like that, and really, I've had the same challenges as well. Multiple job interviews that ultimately lead to nothing, or they end up ghosting you and not replying to you. And this is with professional organizations like the Illinois House of Representatives, the California State Senate, the Michigan Legislature, Those are just a couple of the institutions I interviewed with and never even got a response from, not even a courtesy response. Sorry, we're not going to proceed with this process. But ultimately, I did end up getting hired with the local circuit court in the county that I live within.
Yeah, and now you're in the juvenile delinquency program. Is that correct? I mean, like a probation officer.
Yeah, so currently I'm a juvenile probation officer, and I am fully certified with the Michigan Supreme Court through their Michigan Judicial Institute curriculum. So I meet all the Michigan juvenile probation officer qualifications now. But it was a leap of faith from the 53rd Circuit Court Family Division, which is the entity in which I'm employed under, to end up proceeding with me, as my background's not in criminal justice, but political science is very adjacent to a lot of the social services and sciences that a lot of our youth need in this county. So it ended up being a very good match for me. I'm very fortunate to have landed where I am currently, but that's not a common experience for a lot of other people my age or other people in their early 20s that have recently graduated from a 4-year degree granting institution.
Thinking about college, there's statistical data now, and it's pretty solid that there are more women attending college now versus men. In other words, men are sort of not following the college routine, which leads me to my next question, which is: are we finding from your peer group, from the people that that there's a difference between, even on the voting side, Democratic or Republican? The young people that go to college become more Democrats. The people to decide, or the young people that decide to go into the trade, the trades they decide, or something else, they lean more towards Republican. Are you seeing that kind of thing in your peer group, among your friends that you've known through your high school years, et cetera?
So that's a very complicated question. There's not really an easy answer to that. What I will say is that people that graduate from a 4-year college with a bachelor's degree are more likely to vote Democratic than somebody with a high school diploma or only some college credit where they never graduated from a community college or with their bachelor's degree. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily a result of the education level or if it's already with the values currently instilled within them. So it's hard to really determine that. But what we have kind of seen, generally speaking, as a national electorate is that highly educated and typically suburban and urban voters are moving more towards the Democratic Party, and people that historically have favored the Democratic Party, like unions, specifically the Teamsters, comes to my mind. They are moving more towards the Republican Party. Now, whatever reason that may be, we'll leave it to them to share. But that's what I have noticed as a young person living in northern Michigan.
And we talked about the job situation. Our institute, we've got AI, and I'm gonna ask you about AI, because AI is becoming more and more relevant for some of these entry level jobs. Have you or any of your peers experienced any issues with jobs not, or entry level jobs not being available through this artificial intelligence that's beginning to overtake some of the job markets and limit some of those possibilities?
I don't necessarily know about myself and my specific skill set, but I know that AI is eliminating a lot of entry level positions, like especially looking forward to the future, like accounting, like basic accounting, because everything's already digitized. So implementing AI is really easy in that regard. But a lot of entry level positions that do not require a college degree are already being eliminated. So that's a even larger problem for people without a background, that have a plus one, is like what I like to call it, which is, they've gone to community college, they got a bachelor's degree, or they did some sort of professional certification. It's really the people that only have their high school education that are really going to be hurting because of this implementation of AI, that we are currently seeing.
young men like yourself, you feel like the system is it built for you guys anymore?
I will say that I personally feel disillusioned by the system. And I think that at this time, there's been such a large focus on other things and doing and investing money in people that have historically been underrepresented. I feel like there is a strong chance that there has been an overcorrection and that we're not lifting all boats instead of only lifting some and leaving some people behind. So that's my current assessment of the situation. The difference between me and I feel like a lot of other people is I can understand the reasoning behind it. That doesn't mean I'm enthused about it, but I'm not bitter and angry about it. And I think that's where a lot of other people, rightfully so, have their feelings placed.
Maybe that contributes to the polarization in the country, certainly. Yeah.
That's a certain possibility. Polarization has really taken off and ramped up since 1994, especially after the turn of the millennium in 2000.
Yeah. So when you look at the economic situation, is the system right for you? We've been a capitalistic system at least since the country was founded 250 years. Is capitalism, is it working for you guys? Is it helping you guys to get ahead, or is it really becoming a hindrance? And I'm not suggesting socialism or communism or any other ism is necessarily better, but is capitalism, does it work for you guys? It doesn't seem like it works.
So, generally speaking, the current system that we're operating under with the current set of regulations is not working for a vast majority of Americans. I would say up to 90% of people. The only people that are really benefiting from our current system right now are the people that are already making exorbitant amounts of money in the top 10% of people, income earners in our country. Everybody else is either staying afloat or getting left behind. Personally, I'm in a really good situation where I still live at home. I have a good job with the county. Now, not necessarily, if I was by myself in a different county and I had a ton of student loans to pay off, which I'm very fortunate that I don't because I ended up had the ability to work through my bachelor's degree. That would be a very different story if I was in a different position. Because now a lot of people that do end up going to college can't afford the jobs that are currently on the market for them to take.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, especially if AI is taking some of those lower end jobs that you normally would start out with, whether it's in the financial industry and government and so forth. And finally, and I don't mean this to be a political question. I think it's an interesting question. President Trump had a lot of support from the younger group in the 2024 election, especially among young men. So is the support for Trump amongst young men, is that about policy or about feeling heard? In other words, he gave them a voice that they hadn't heard before.
To be clear, I've never personally supported the president or voted for him. So I'm not going to pretend to understand entirely why people do. But I have a suspicion it's because he ends up projecting and messaging to the worst impulses of society, especially young men who feel like they've been left behind. And to me, it seems like when you give a voice to a feeling that a lot of people are experiencing, but nobody's really talking about, that opens the door for a large swath of support to go to, in this case, President Trump.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it's people really not taking their messaging seriously, not addressing the concerns that young people, and in this case, young men, have in particular. And as a young man, I can tell you that I feel like my specific issues by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are not being addressed. Neither of them have serious policies or are projecting anything towards us to incentivize young people like myself into supporting them.
And that, of course, leads to voter apathy and disillusionment. And so then consequently, we don't see half of the 18 to 29-year-olds show up at the polls. I suppose they think, why bother, right? I can't change anything. It's the old people that are running this thing, and that makes it tough. If you wanted to reach out, and as we think about coming to an end on this interview, if you wanted to reach out to your the Democratic or the Democrats or the Republican Party, what would you want to tell them specifically to hey, this is what we need. This is these are our issues, young people. These are our issues. And what would that be?
I'm not going to speak on behalf of all people in their early to mid 20s right now, but what I would like to tell them is that they need to sincerely sit down with a diverse group of young people, men, women, people with bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, people that have finished high school or maybe even a high school dropout. Ask sincerely and actually listen to our lived experiences and ask everybody, what do you think will make this better? And please take it seriously. That would be my message to both the Democratic and Republican parties, to actually listen sincerely and take notes about how we actually feel and what's going on in our lives.
Well, I appreciate the conversation and the interview, Evan. I hope this interview reaches out to a lot of the people that are at the heads of the various parties in our country, and they begin to listen to the young people. They begin to listen to their needs and their wants and their desires. And we can't leave this generation behind us. We can't let them be disillusioned and apathetic. That's not good going forward, is it?
No, it's not. We really need to address the voter apathy and overall disillusionment in the entire electorate to move forward in a positive manner. And I hope that both parties can come to their senses and end up projecting and presenting their forward looking agenda for the American people. And that's really our only way forward at this time.
Super. Well, Evan, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope to get you back on, and we'll talk later about some of the other issues affecting young people. I think it's an important conversation.